Yo, what it is, YouTube? It's your boy Nixie coming back with another bullseye of a tutorial here today on the channel. I want to talk about how to use mastering tape to, literally master a hip hop record, specifically with reshaping the low end, adding some stereo width, all of that good stuff, that human element. I want to show you guys how you can use mastering tape, to pretty much give you that certain vibe. So if you guys do have any more comments or questions, go ahead and drop it down below. I'm more than happy to get to it. I have a song here from an artist named Dante. I recently finished the mix for it. Let's listen to it and let's get to these gems. Let's go.
Outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without. And stressing is a thing that I refuse to speak about. When you dealing with some shit, you by yourself, and that's the problem. But let them wear the shoe and watch the table start revolving. Then you can see yourself and other people you confuse. The ones that you be wanting to see win, want you to lose. I throw you off with talking, but it's often that it happens. Them be the people that you gotta watch. They be capping, won't beat around the bush, I'd rather kick the news. City selective with the love, they rather pick and choose. But see, you only get a few to catch the vibe, and that be normal. Ain't messy, I'll be staying out people way and keep it cordial. You put it past a person, then you play the fool. I can't relate to nothing.
All right, so that's what we have right here. Very dope, very dope. And if by any chance you guys do ever want to get a mix from me, you can just DM me on Instagram or email me. I'm always here to work, always here to sauce it up. So let's listen to what we have here for today. So most importantly, the history of understanding something like the tape machine. So back in the day, them boys used to have, the tape machine give them a lot of that tone, a lot of that human element, that characteristic. Most importantly for this record right here, I went with something like a tape machine. I knew I had to, just because the sound, the music was talking to me. Before, I didn't have nothing on the master bus like that, and the music was like, you gotta throw on the tape machine. You gotta throw on the tape machine. So sometimes you gotta listen to the music, because the music, this is a song that obviously, if you blatantly hear it, that it's gonna tell you need to put a tape machine on the master. So that's what I always try to talk about. Don't listen to other people. Listen to your heart. Listen to your ears. The music is having a conversation with you. It's gonna tell you what plugins to use and how to use it. What do you want to get out of it? So pretty much, if your stomach is growling and you're hungry, well, you gotta listen to your stomach. Your stomach is talking to you, telling you, "Babe, you gotta feed me." So it's the same exact shit. I was using something like the Ampex, a tape machine. Very interesting. This is a throwback tape machine. A lot of the times people used to master on this. They had like a mastering grade tape and all that. Interestingly enough, too, back in the day, I don't think that people would be using the same console that they tracked on. Like, they didn't use the same console that they recorded on, that they mixed. So that's another interesting thing to know too. I think sometimes they would transfer the tape over and use a different tape machine, and the tape machine got its own parts in it. I know, like something like a tape machine has a transformer. It has a little bit of also some tubes depending on the tape machine, and those all have like different characteristics. And that's the cool thing. Back in the day, you go to a certain studio knowing that studio got a certain sound. They got a certain equipment. They got a certain console. They got a certain, live chamber, a live room that's gonna give me my certain swag. So it's all about ear imagination. You gotta imagine, okay, if I use a Studer tape machine, how is it gonna sound on this mix? You gotta already have the ear imagination to know stuff like that. So that's why ear imagination is pretty important. And you have something like the Studer 827. This one says it's here for local pickup. I don't know what they think I'm about to do. I'm about to pick this up locally for $25,000 when I can just get the plugin for $25. But this thing, usually when it comes to like used stuff, y'all boys, don't ever, like, unless it's a authorized reseller, don't buy it from these people, because you never know. Like, they might have just found this out of back of their uncle's truck or something like that, and they trying to sell it on Reverb, talking about local pickup. What I'm gonna help you locally pick up. I'm gonna help you locally pick it up and put it in the trash. But still, no disrespect to tape machines. I'm just saying, don't ever buy a tape, any used gear for people online. You never know. You don't got no warranty. Most important, okay, so let's listen to the Ampex with and without. I opened it up, and with the Ampex, you got four different types of tape, which is kind of like, the different types of flavor. One is like blue cheese, another one is honey mustard, another one is ketchup. So different seasonings, different flavors. After that, you have the calibration, which is how much tape compression you're getting. The higher number you go up to, you'll get more tape compression. I'm going to show you guys like a couple different tape machines as well. And then you have the tape head, which is kind of like the quality pretty much. So let's listen to it with and without. Let's listen to especially the bass, the low end. I didn't have a way to juice up the 2 tracks. So what I did is I used the master tape on the whole master, and that's kind of how I juiced up the whole entire song. So pay attention to the width, the depth, the low end, everything. Come on.
Outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without. And stressing is a thing that I refuse to speak about. When you dealing with some shit, you by yourself, and that's the problem. But let them wear the shit when watch the table start revolving. Then you can see yourself and other people you confuse. The ones that you be wanting to see win, want you to lose. I throw you off with talking, but it's often that it happen. Them be the people that you gotta watch. They be capping. Won't beat around the bush, I'd rather kick the news. City selective with the love, they rather pick and choose. But see, you only get a few to catch the vibe, and that be normal. Ain't messy, I be staying out people way and keep it cordial. You put it past a person, then you play the fool. I can't relate to nothing fake, they try to make it outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without. And stressing is a thing that I refuse to speak about. You dealing with some shit, you by yourself, and that's the problem. But let them wear the shoe and watch the table start revolving. Then you can see.
So it really just juiced up the whole beat entirely, especially when you hear the low end, the bass, you can hear boom, 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 boom. So this was a very popular tape machine, also with something like Marvin Gaye, Motown, all those soulful records. So it's pretty interesting. And usually when I use it on mastering purposes, I use like 15 IPS. So this is something that you would usually like probably like mix into and everything like that. Most importantly, but just listen to how the tape is giving us some weight. So when it comes to the actual controls, I never really like go into it. This one is really deep, but one thing for sure, I always turn off the noise, and sometimes I turn it in the transformer and in and off, you know, just because it gives that certain amount of weight. So let's look at some other cheaper options, because that's a very expensive plugin. You have something like, this is like stock with Pro Tools. This is like the real-time saturation. And let's just pay attention to like low-end distortion is very important to understand when you're doing something like saturation. Like I wanted to affect the 808, well, not the 808, but the bass line and everything like that. But depending on, sometimes when you use saturation on like for a mastering purpose, you might start crunching up your 808. And we're going to pay attention to this too, because I'm going to start like messing it around, pushing the tape calibration, get more compression. Listen to how, you know, even with tape, it's a beautiful thing, but any saturator in general, you got to pay attention to the low end. That's the first thing that's always going to kind of like give out.
Outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without. And stressing is a thing that I refuse to speak about. When you dealing with some shit, you by yourself, and that's the problem. But let them wear the shoe and watch the table start revolving. Then you can see yourself and other people you confuse. The ones that you be wanting to see win, want you to lose. I throw you off with talking, but it's often that it happen. Them be the people that you gotta watch. They be capping. Won't beat around the bush, I'd rather kick the news. City selective with the love, they rather pick and choose. But see, you only get a few to catch the vibe, and that be normal. Ain't messy, I be staying out people way and keep it cordial. You put it past a person, then you play the fool. I can't relate to nothing fake, they try to make it.
So yeah, that could potentially be a very, very cool effect. Like if you wanted to do that like on an individual instrument, like a kick or a bass, to give it a little bit of that grit and like parallels, probably how would I use that? So with the tape compression, that's always pretty important. That's always coming down to the calibration adjustment and all that stuff like that. Then you have some other things when it comes to like mastering tape and stuff like that. Let's say if you had a dark mix, you know, under biasing and over biasing is pretty important, because with the under biasing, you can make your whole mix sound a little bit brighter, you know, without using boosting EQ. And with over biasing, you can make your mix sound rounder. So this is like a stock plugin. This is free with Pro Tools. I know somebody's gonna be in the comments like, "What? I don't have that plugin, Nick. I can't use it." Well, motherfucker, you gotta figure out a different way. Like, find your own tape plug. And honestly, when it comes to something like that, stop making excuses. I see people, they want to make excuses before they make the music, but that's my motto: make music, don't make excuses. All right, so let's listen to how over biasing can make it brighter or darker. Let's go.
Outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without. And stressing is a thing that I refuse to speak about. When you dealing with some shit, you by yourself, and that's the problem. But let them wear the shoe and watch the table start revolving. Then you can see yourself and other people you confuse. The ones that you be wanting to see win, want you to lose. I throw you off with talking, but it's often that it happen. Them be the people that you gotta watch. They be capping. Won't beat around the bush, I'd rather kick the news. City selective with the love, they rather pick and choose. But see, you only get a few to catch the vibe, and that be normal. Ain't messy, I be staying out people way and keep it caught.
So the actual biasing of the tape machine is kind of like an umbrella. Let's look at also really quickly the J37. So I don't like using the J37 on the master tape, and this would be an example of that, because sometimes you have a tape plugin that you're using and it's gonna make your mix sound softer. It's gonna be like when you take a mallet and you're banging into some chicken, it's gonna like just pretty much how do they call it, it's gonna pulverize your mix, it's gonna soften your transients, which might be cool if you have a mix that's overly hyped up and the transients are a little too hard. That would be good. But in a situation like this where I wanted to actually enhance a little bit punch, I wanted more bottom, it didn't work. So this is an example of a tape, mastering tape that doesn't work for a song like this.
Outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without. And stressing is a thing that I refuse to speak about. When you dealing with some shit, you by yourself, and that's the problem. But let them wear the shoe and watch the table start revolving. Then you can see yourself and other people you confuse. The ones that you be wanting to see win, want you to lose. I throw you off with talking, but it's often that it happens. Them be the people that you gotta watch. They be capping, won't beat around the bush, I'd rather kick the news. City selective with the love, they rather pick and choose. But see you.
So that would be pretty interesting too, understanding how is the music talking to you. You can change the mood of the music. Before the music sounded like it was having a pretty okay day, pretty strong, pretty confident. But when we brought in the tape machine, it kind of mellowed out, kind of took a chill pill. It took like some cough medicine, or it kind of sounds a little sick, a little bit more melancholy, which could be pretty cool if that's the mood of the music. So when it comes to something like mastering 2-bus process, you got to understand the mood of the music, the end goal. Are we going down the street, up the road, up the block? Are we trying to bake this? Are we trying to fry it? Sometimes you want to get a mastering tape and hit it hard to give you a little bit of that aggression, which would be like taking some chicken and frying it. But sometimes you want to mellow out the music depending on the mood, and that's kind of like baking it, like making it soft and like rich. So that's how I kind of see it, kind of like cooking. And then after that, the Kramer master tape is pretty dope. So I'm going over a bunch of different ones. And if you can't afford the UAD, well, I just showed you a stock one. I just showed you the waves ones here. So get what works for you. And if you can't, just find something. It's too many plugins out here to be complaining that you can't access this stuff. So yeah. Let's look at this right now. Back in the days, people, if they didn't go to that certain studio, they probably couldn't use a certain tape machine. So let's listen to how something like the Kramer Master Tape, this one has tubes in it. So it kind of is going to be a little bit brighter, a little bit more high fidelity. And that's kind of why I like it. And I used a moderate amount of flux. So the flux is the tape compression. This is kind of like the saturation, but these work hand in hand together. And the bias, I have it on normal. Like we said, over bias would make it dark, and the tape speed is 15, which is neutral. So let's look at that real quick.
Outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without. And stressing is a thing that I refuse to speak about. When you dealing with some shit, you by yourself, and that's the problem. But let them wear the shoe and watch the table start revolving. Then you can see yourself and other people you confuse. The ones that you be wanting to see win, want you to lose. I throw you off with talking, but
pay attention to that bass line. Pay attention to that bass line, how it becomes more solid. The image is better because now we add a little bit of saturation, a little bit of distortion.
Outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without. And stressing is a thing that I refuse to speak about. When you dealing with some shit, you by yourself, and that's the problem. But let them wear the shoe and watch the table start revolving. Then you can see yourself and other people you confuse. The ones that you be wanting to see win, want you to lose. I throw you off with talking, but it's often that it happens. Them be the people that you gotta watch. They be capping, won't beat around the bush, I'd rather kick the news. City selective with the love, they rather pick and choose. But see, you only get a few to catch the vibe, and that be normal. Ain't messy, I be staying out people way and keep it cordial. You put it past a person, then you play the fool. I can't relate to nothing fake, they try to make it outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without.
And additionally too, adding a little bit of that saturation to the overtones, like the tippity top of the music, it kind of makes you hear the reverb better, you hear the delay better, you hear the background vocals better, because now there's a little bit more of that sprinkle, a little bit more of that fairy dust in the very top end. So this is not a video where it's all about trying to emulate that analog workflow. I'm not really interested in that because it's 2023. I just go this for like vibe, you know. And I used something like an NLS bus too. I like to use that too. Let me show you kind of like what that would do, a constant emulation. You know, sometimes I feel like with the constant emulations, you got to understand that you might be making your whole mix softer. Sometimes you might be actually hurting your mix when you got constant emulation after constant emulation. You're just making your whole mix muddy and murky. So I like to use constant emulation sparingly, like here and there type situation. So let's look.
Outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without. And stressing is a thing that I refuse to speak about. When you dealing with some shit, you by yourself, and that's the problem. But let them wear the shoe and watch the table start revolving. Then you can see yourself in other people you could.
Now pay attention to how using something like this constant emulation, specifically knowing my tools, I'm actually able to enhance the snare. So this is something like you got to do when you're mastering sometimes. Like you can't touch the 2-track beat, so you got to figure out a way to go around it. You got to figure out how to overcome that obstacle. Just kind of like how anything in life, you got to overcome an obstacle. So I can't adjust the 808, the bass line, so I had to use a tape machine to adjust it. Now I'm bringing in a constant emulation to adjust the snare and put the hi-hat and all that stuff like that. So let's listen.
Outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without. And stressing is a thing that I refuse to speak about. When you dealing with some shit, you by yourself, and that's the problem. But let them wear the shoe and watch the table start revolving. Then you can see yourself in other people you confuse. The ones that you be wanting to see win, want you to lose. I throw you off with talking, but it's often that it happens. Them be the people that you gotta watch. They be capping, won't beat around the bush, I'd rather kick the news. City selective with the love, they rather pick and choose. But see, you only get a few to catch the vibe, and that be normal. And
just pay attention to how the vocal and the snare are actually swapping places. You know, the vocal was in front, but now it kind of takes a step back, and now the snare kind of comes up a little bit. So this is like the type of mastering moves that you can do with saturation. Listen again.
Outlet. People telling me many different things, but I don't listen. Really, I just be thinking they be wanting my position. It's true, cause when you blessed, they rather see you be without. And stressing is a thing that I refuse to speak about. When you dealing with some shit, you by yourself, and that's the problem. But let them wear the shoe and watch the table start revolving. Then you can see yourself in other people you confuse. The ones that you be wanting to see win, want you to lose. I throw you off with talking, but it's often that it happens.
All right, so that's pretty much all the gems that I got here for you today, coming from a mastering perspective. So I showed you guys how to beef up that low end, how to, you know, make the vocal and everything like that, kind of like swap positioning and everything like that with the whole stereo imaging, how to enhance the reverb as well as delays, all that stuff like that, using saturation, using the bias current and the tape formula and all that stuff like that. So I just want to say thanks a lot for being a great part of my YouTube family. If you guys do enjoy these like mastering-ish type of videos, don't forget to drop it down below, or any more video suggestion ideas, I'm more than happy to get to it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.